Now, let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. He is a writer, director, and publicist. He's originally from Boston, but currently lives in the heart of Hollywood. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show today, Josh Mitchell. Hi, Josh. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing, January. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you on the show. You know, you are a fabulous publicist, and I've had so many of your clients on the show, and it's been wonderful. You're a great resource for this show, and now I finally get to have you on the show. I like to start each show with my guests, having them share where their success story began and who their early mentors were.
Sure. I stem from Boston, as you might be able to tell from my accent. I parked the car in Harvard Yard.
Yeah.
So everything began with me in a small town called Hingham, Massachusetts, which is a suburb about 20 miles south of the city. I went to college at Roger Williams University in Bristol, Rhode Island, and I got a degree in journalism. Mm-hmm. So some of my mentoring started to happen at that juncture. I had some tremendous teachers that sort of opened my eyes up to, new work that really inspired me. Mm-hmm. But one pivotal moment in my life was when I discovered a biography on the famous writer Henry Miller at the library.
Okay.
Henry Miller wrote a book called Tropic of Cancer that actually inspired the first NC-17 movie called Henry and June, with Johnny Depp playing Henry Miller.
Okay.
A tremendous artist. He actually wrote his book in Paris, and then in his later years, he migrated to Big Sur, California. So I was able to travel out to both of those regions and sort of walk the streets that he walked. But, he's really one of those writers that isn't afraid to push the envelope and, untainted, unsort of, just edgy material that he's honest, raw, and that's kind of been an inspiration for me in a lot of my work, from my novels to my film. I believe that niceness is the enemy of art, and so I like to get people sort of thinking,
Well, I would say you're definitely outside the box. I've been looking at your website, and some of the titles for your movies are just fantastic. So how did you get, Josh, from Boston to Hollywood? What happened there?
Well, I was working for T-Mobile, and I was working during the sort of pinnacle of cell phones. So I was in the sales world, and, I've always had my heart in the entertainment world. So I made a film with my best friend from home. We made a movie called Roid Rage. It's a sort of wild, it's kind of apropos with Halloween around the corner here. It was a horror thriller film that had to do with steroids and mad cow disease. So we made this feature film for the price of a protein bar, and we took it out to the Sundance Film Festival, not as an official selection. But I traveled out there, and this is over 10 years ago now. And so I went out to the big festival, and I learned how to sort of navigate the festival circuit, how to attend the best events, how to meet the top distribution agents. And, I batted my brown eyes, and I learned that, this is value right here. So I've always had the personality in terms of dealing with people, and I'm not afraid to sort of put an initiative on a goal. So I created out of really nothing my publicity firm. Okay. So, most people work for an agency and then they branch out and they maybe start their own gig. I sort of took the other route. I created a boutique out the gate out of sort of nothing, just me, and I've grown it over the last, 10 years. So my company originated, and we'll get into the name of my company, Wickid Pissa, which is really just a colloquial slang term from Boston that means really cool. So you'll hear a lot of people say, "Hey man, that movie last night was Wickid Pissa," that was just wicked. So I wanted a term that sort of encapsulates me, and that piece really is my Valentine, my sort of tip of the hat to my hometown. And that's where it all really began.
Well, it's interesting. And when you say Wickid Pissa, it's spelled Wickid. And I'm sure this was on my list of questions to ask you where that came from. And now you've shared that with us. When you look back at growing up in Boston, I mean, you grew up there, and Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, all of you grew up there. Who were your early mentors besides Henry Miller?
I didn't have a ton. I mean, obviously we can definitely reference what Ben and Matt have done, which is just tremendous. I mean, they've reached the top of the mountain. In terms of like filmmaking wise, I mean, I had an excellent journalism teacher named Ted Delaney, who was a tremendous writer, really prolific, had his own column in Denver. He was one that sort of inspired me to continue to explore the written word. From filmmaking, though, I mean, I grew up in a great time. This is actually before digital now. We live in a wonderful world now where I can use the same cameras that Spielberg and, the best and the brightest in the film world use. But we were experimenting. I would say really my mentor would probably be my best friend, Patrick Ryan, who was a kid that, he was a real technical guru. So I've always been sort of an idea guy, a creative writer, but he was one that was kind of had his pulse on the cameras that were going. I mean, he made us shoot on the PXL 1000, which was a Fisher Price camera. And then we experimented as the technology grew. We kept kind of going in line with it. And now, now with these red cameras, you can get images that are just immaculate. But he was one that I guess he's kind of shed the light on a path for us to continue to explore technically, trying to capture stuff. And you can, I mean, if you look us up on YouTube, you can see the trajectory of him and I shooting on these home cameras to where we are now. It's kind of interesting to see. And it's, obviously it was a great in the trenches way to learn filmmaking as well.
Welcome back to Real Fast, January Jones, sharing success stories. And today I'm sharing my guest, Josh Mitchell, and we're going to talk about his first novel, The Dude Who Did Dictionaries. Now, what inspired this novel, Josh?
Basically, it was my love of the written word. I always pick a subject basically that surrounds occupation. And I became really fascinated with lexicographers, those who write dictionaries. I had never really seen any creative pieces on that. And studying the works of like Samuel Johnson and Noah Webster, I thought, wouldn't that be interesting to sort of, modernize that idea? Now we're so blessed, obviously, we can type in a word in Google and we can get it immediately. But, the idea of the nostalgia of having to open up a dictionary and the way that those words, what decides and who decides why those words eventually get put in that master book. So I wanted to do something that sort of encapsulated all that and also brought in the idea of the challenges of the 9-to-5 job. I mean, as a self-employed individual, I'm always fascinated about those that have to punch the clock. And, that's something that I thought could be really nicely explored. So that's sort of the genesis of the novel.